Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at an Aggro blood deck for Unlimited. This deck I did pull from the Shadowverse English Facebook group. Mint posted it, which is to be expected. He did pull it from another decent player. I'm trying to remember their name. I remember they were from TO, but I can't remember anything else about their name. Otherwise, I would give them full credit for this deck, of course. The only adjustment I made is I've cut one Lust for one Dark General, mainly because I only have two Lust and really couldn't be bothered crafting a third one. But if I was going to make any change, it would definitely be to add one more Lust and cut the one Dark General. Everything else in this deck, though, is pretty much stable. The idea of this deck obviously being super consistent damage and very quick games. So you can quite easily get your early game stuff to get Florus, as you're about to see, and that can pretty much win you games turn 2, turn 3 very, very quickly. Then outside of that, of course, we have pretty much everything you need to win games turn 6. You're not looking to win games turn 7 with Dark Feast Bat, that's just a little slow in the current metas, and as you'll see, it's definitely better to win as early as possible and not have to worry, which is why this deck seems to do so well. Honestly, it's perfect for what I'd want, and considering the Unlimited Grand Prix will be going on when you guys are watching this video, I'm still the day before the Grand Prix making this, this should be a really good deck to use for that, so hopefully you guys enjoy it, and we'll get right into it. So this video is going to be a kind of mishmash of games, mainly because considering how quickly this deck ends the game, most people will concede quite quickly, which means some of the games will just be like turn 1, turn 2, concede. But that's exactly what I wanted to show off for this deck, because that is what this deck does as its primary focus. It can end with very quick concedes. Like as you see here, this is almost an ideal hand. Getting a Blood Flower Blade, Gift of Bloodkin, and Restless Parish all work together extremely well. Getting the Razor Claw as well means I pretty much guarantee my next play getting the Florus, which is awesome. And will pretty much win you games most of the time. The consistency I've had with this deck so far, I've played 7 games and I had won 5 out of those 7, of which 3 of those were on turn 2 or 3 where I just pulled out a massive combo, and the 2 that I lost, one was I had an extremely good combo but I got out aggroed by an extreme aggro sword with perfect curve, and the second one was against Shadow that went first and just curved out perfectly as well. So outside of perfect curves, that was the only time I'd actually lost with this deck. So I did decide to make this push, getting out as much damage as we could and just going face is always the way to play it. Self-damage is important because we want to take advantage of Omen of Lust, and of course I set up the draws with Blazing Sapphire because you don't want to completely run out of cards a lot of the time. So they did go for a full board clear, not that that's really going to be enough for them, as we have our Flower Bed play, sorry, our Omen of Lust play, with our flower beds to really finish this off pretty quickly. Like we only need 3 damage, we've already got a couple of draw chances and our flower beds are going to go off next turn, so we're going to ping 1, so realistically we only needed 2 damage to win that game anyway, and as you can see, extremely fast. So we have a Shadow again as our next matchup. Shadow is an extremely popular deck on ladder right now, and no wonder, it's extremely powerful deck once it gets to its kind of mid-game section. But this deck's pretty decent at finishing them off most of the time. I would say overall, 60% of the Shadow matches up, you'll probably win quite easy. Of course, you do have to get your mulligans fairly well, so it is possible to brick, but I found the odds of bricking are extremely low, and as long as you plan out your turns, you're usually fine. Like, in this case, getting Disciple of Lust out turn 1 is great. If they can counter it, it's a lot harder, but you can make do with what you normally get. So in this situation, we've got exactly what we need to get our turn 2 Florus again, pretty much absolutely destroy this game, and really have no issue from there. Of course, I'm thinking I probably should have traded the 1-1 there, because now they could guarantee the removal of the 5-3, but wasting all your followers to remove a 5-3 on turn 3, not always the best. Pact of the Nether God though, a little bit more impressive, not the player I expected to see from that Shadow player. Did decide just to trade that off, and this time aiming for the Nightfall plays. I was trying to come up with how I could probably go for lethal, and considering we're going to be able to use our Evo points, these Nightfall is actually a pretty decent card, and not one I usually use. So definitely using it to be aggressive works in your favor in these kind of matchups. That's why I actually like this match quite a bit compared to the first one, as I had to go for a little bit of a different strategy when it came to finding a potential lethal. And with Shadow's healing, it was also quite rough. Usually Lady Grey is the only healing problem, but Amaterasu seems to be a pretty decent tech that Shadow's running. So we're going to be able to get 4 more damage off this. We've also got our Snarling Chain, so we're going to be able to remove things fairly well. We've also got Flower Bed, so we're actually going to get 5 total damage just off those without using Snarling Chains. There was also a decent ping as well. Hitting the 1-1 was definitely better than hitting my 3-3 at this point. Although the healing makes it rough because I really wanted to win this game this turn with what I had in hand. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that as the healing puts them at 5, so we're relying on drawing 1 damage, which, considering how many cards we have in this deck that can deal 1 damage, it shouldn't be hard. An Ambling Wraith is just the card we needed. So with an Evo and Ambling Wraith, we beat this Shadow player out pretty easily. Definitely one of my favourite decks for Unlimited right now. Super aggressive aggro blood. So now we have a couple of much quicker games where we're going up against Haven and we can pretty much demolish them super early. No matter how aggressive a Haven deck can be, turn 2 do nothing for them is super rough. And even if they decide to clear Florus, they waste the whole turn doing so on turn 2. But in this case, we unfortunately didn't quite get our combo this time, at least not in our initial draw. We definitely needed more of a setup with this Disciple of Lust to try and pull it off. Considering how Haven plays, Disciple of Lust is fairly consistent turn 1 decent play. We did end up with the 0 drop as well, which is perfect, so we can actually go Spiderweb Imp, Restless Parish, and Gift of Bloodkin for our damage, along with our attack to get our 3-5. Or 5-3, sorry, if you want to go stats in the right order. And as you can see, pretty much instant concede on that. There's not much a Haven could do that early in the game. And our next one is Rune, and again, another very, very quick game, and it's no surprise as this deck can do very consistently early turn Florus, which is just a nuts play. So we've got Razory and double Ambling. The only problem card here is Razory. It's a little too high cost for the early game that we want, and Blood-Fed Flowerbed, perfect. Blood-Fed Flowerbed, cannot go wrong. Play that turn 1, we've got double Ambling, all we need is a 0 cost play and we guarantee our play. If we don't get the 0 cost, we could still have a pretty decent run. But we get Gift of Bloodkin. Considering we have 2 0 costs in our deck, both at 3 odds of getting them are fairly reasonable. And again, this pretty much guarantees the game at this point. Of course, going first helps, but I found going second really isn't that big of a setback unless your opponent plays a 1-2 on their first turn. So again, I'd like to thank Mint for posting this deck on the Facebook group, and also obviously the original creator from TO. It's such a wonderful deck and does extremely well. Definitely what I'll be taking into Grand Prix. As you saw, even though we'd covered 4 games, they went extremely quickly because that's what this deck does best. The couple of games I lost, I knew I'd lost by turn 6, and at that point they pretty much steamrolled me, even without me conceding. So if you do get to that turn 5, turn 6 and can't see a clear path to winning, the odds of you winning become extremely small. Of course, if you see the potential to top deck a win, definitely go for it. I always recommend doing so, as top decking Dark General or Omen of Lust in the turn 5 to 6 range could be the difference between winning and losing some of your matchups, and honestly it's definitely worth giving a shot. Otherwise, of course, you're always aiming to mulligan for that super early combo, being able to get your Amblings, Blood-Fled, Disciple, and Bloodkin, and of course Parish makes a huge difference. If you can't get it turn 2, usually I aim for 3 or 4, as it's still quite a solid turn on those turns with extra followers, and Spiderweb Imp does a wonderful job of that. The only card I've been a little bit awkward with has been Alexandrite Demon. Why was that so difficult to say? Who knows? But honestly, everything else I've found to be super useful. Even Wings of Lust, which, while I didn't use it in this gameplay, the one match I lost against Sword that I actually got to use this card still got me very close to the win. It was literally 1 turn off winning, and Sword unfortunately steamrolled the turn before, so just a little disappointed in that one. But if you guys did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.